probably wondering what I'm doing up here, sitting alone at the top of this mountain. Actually, I'm wondering the same thing myself. It wasn't always like this. When I first came up here, I thought I would be gaining a partner in my mission. But he has left to pursue his destiny. And I am left here to figure my next move. I watched him at his baptism. As he came up out of the water and the dove came down, landed on his shoulder, and the voice from heaven cried out, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." Not everyone heard that voice, mind you, but I did. By the way, God, nice touch. Very impressive. I thought he would leave immediately and go up to Galilee to begin his mission, but instead he came here, to the top of this mountain, in the middle of nowhere, in the wilderness of Judea. I didn't understand what he was doing. I don't think he did either. First there was a day, and then a night, and then another day and another night, fasting, praying, sleeping, fasting, praying, sleeping. How long would he keep this up? I never guessed. But it turned out to be 40 days and 40 nights. Who did he think he was? Noah without an ark? Moses without 2 tablets? 40 days is almost 6 weeks. And to go 6 weeks with just praying? What a colossal waste of time. But I knew it would give me the opportunity. After 6 weeks of not eating, he should be weak, and therefore susceptible to my persuasive offers. And so, even though it was a colossal waste of my time too, I knew it would be worth it in the end. And so, I would approach him with a small suggestion. Jesus, you are the Son of God, aren't you? He looked as if he didn't notice me. Jesus, you see these stones, don't you? I bet if you tried, you could turn them into loaves of bread. He knelt down. He picked one up and he looked at it. It was nice and round, like a loaf of pita bread, freshly out of the oven. He looked at it. He knew what I was talking about. With all of those hungry masses out there starving for someone to lead them to prosperity, he could make a real name for himself. I wasn't talking about just one loaf of bread. If he wanted to, he could feed thousands. And why wouldn't he? After all, using his special abilities to show care and compassion to the poor and needy. Why, who could find fault with that? His only answer had to be yes. For the first time, he turned to me and said, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." What? Jesus, have you ever tried telling that to a starving man? Can you believe that? How unrealistic can a person be? How uncaring? How insensitive? Why, it's almost cruel, isn't it? Well, isn't it? Of course it is. The man was still strong, but I was not going to be beaten. So I was going to come back with him and raise the stakes. And I came back and I thought, maybe he will ignore me completely. But when I offered to take him on a little trip, in his imagination, of course, he agreed to come along. So I took him to the pinnacle of the temple in Jerusalem. out over all the streets below. The shopkeepers come early in the morning and put their goods out for sale, and the crowds mingle there all day, looking at what they can buy. And I said to him, Jesus, if you throw yourself down there, God will save you from destruction. You do believe in the Bible, don't you? Of course you do. And in the book of Psalms it is written, he shall command his angels concerning you, and also on their hands they shall bear you up, so that you shall not strike your foot against a stone. I bet you didn't pick any of the Bible. Well, it seemed like a fair application of Scripture to me. But after all, I am the father of lies. He refused. But if he were a teenager, he would have done it. Teenagers think they know everything, and they think they're going to live forever. And they will do things just for the thrill of it. And when they try, then they're not. Yes, he refused. He says to me, it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Oh, really, Jesus? People put God to the test all the time. They say, God, give me this, and God, give me that. They even want to make a deal with God. God, if you'll do this little favor for me, I'll even go to church on Sunday. People like to manipulate the situation. And when God doesn't play with that little game, it's time for me to plant the seed of doubt. I like to whisper in their ears. Why? If God won't do that little favor for you, what kind of God can he be? And then, when the real problems come, I take that doubt. I grow it into despair. I sprinkle it with a little tragedy. And then you're mine. It's so easy. But Jesus was still strong. I was not going to give up. This time I was going to up the stakes to the maximum. So I went back to him and I said, Jesus, let me take you up to a high mountain peak. And we went to the highest peak in the area. And we looked out on the valleys below. And there, in the valleys, were all the kingdoms and all their splendor. And I said to him, Jesus, just say the magic word, yes. And all of this will be yours. And all you need to do is bow down and worship me. There were no strings attached. He could do whatever he wanted to do. And nobody would know the difference except for him and me, of course. He turns to me and he says, it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God and serve only him. Jesus, don't you know that this world is built on the shifting sands of compromise? Why, nobody worships one God unless it's themselves. Why, doesn't the Bible say God helps those who help themselves? Oh, well, okay, the Bible doesn't say that. But they believe it. They believe a lot of things. Look at them. These people you love live their lives in chains. And they will not even know that you have given them the key to freedom. Freedom from their guilt freedom from their imperfections. Why, even your closest friends, your disciples, all I need to do is reach one of them, and the rest of them will scatter like sheep. They will deny you. They will desert you, just as they all will. I looked at him. He knew who he was. He knew what his mission was. He knew what the true and living God was. And as I looked at him, the angels descended and began to wait on him. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.